Welcome to I'm your guide through the fog-laden streets of 1920s London and beyond, where secrets lurk in every shadow. Tonight we unravel a chilling tale featuring the brilliant Hercule Poirot. So settle in, perhaps with a cup of tea, and let's dive into this classic whodunit. Oh, and do tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I'd love to know. Chapter 1. The Fog of Raven Street, London, 1925. The city slumbers beneath a veil of fog so dense it seems to muffle time itself. Gas lamps cast feeble halos along Raven Street, their lights swallowed by the swirling mist that clings to the cobblestones like a living thing. The air carries the damp chill of autumn, mingling with the faint scent of coal smoke and the distant clatter of hooves on stone. It is a night for secrets, for whispers in shadowed corners, and for the sharp mind of Hercule Poirot, the Belgian detective whose reputation for unraveling the impossible precedes him. Poirot steps from a hansom cab, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement. He adjusts his pocket watch, a silver heirloom from his days in Ostende, its faint tick a grounding rhythm amidst the eerie quiet. His impeccable mustache, waxed to perfection, twitches slightly as he surveys the street. The invitation that summoned him here, penned in a hurried scrawl, lies folded in his pocket. It bears the name of Sir Reginald Harwood, a banker whose wealth is matched only by the whispers of his ruthless ambition. The note spoke of a matter requiring the utmost discretion, a phrase that piqued Poirot's curiosity and set his gray cells humming. The townhouse at number 17 Raven Street looms before him, its Georgian facade both grand and forbidding. Ivy clings to the brickwork, and the tall windows glow faintly, their curtains drawn tight against prying eyes. Poirot ascends the steps, his gloved hand rapping the brass knocker with precision. The door creaks open, revealing a butler whose gaunt face and rigid posture suggest a man accustomed to silence. "Monsieur Poirot," he murmurs, bowing slightly. "Sir Reginald awaits you in the drawing-room." The interior of the house is a study in opulence. Crystal chandeliers gleam overhead, casting prisms of light across mahogany paneling. Persian rugs muffle Poirot's steps as he follows the butler through a labyrinth of corridors adorned with portraits of stern-faced Harwoods, their eyes seeming to follow him. The air is thick with the scent of beeswax polish and the faint tang of cigar smoke, a reminder of the wealth and power that define this household. In the drawing-room, Sir Reginald Harwood rises from a leather armchair, his portly frame straining against a tailored waistcoat. His face, ruddy from years of fine dining, betrays a nervous tick at the corner of his mouth. "Monsieur Poirot," he says, his voice a forced blend of warmth and urgency, "your presence is a relief. Please sit." He gestures to a chair opposite a roaring fire, its flames casting flickering shadows across the room. Poirot settles into the chair, his posture immaculate, his eyes keen as he studies Sir Reginald. The banker's hands fidget with a gold cigarette case, betraying his unease. "You have a matter of delicacy, oui?" Poirot prompts, his Belgian accent softening the words. "A matter that requires the little gray cells of Hercule Poirot." Sir Reginald nods, glancing toward the door as if expecting an interruption. "I am a man of means, Monsieur Poirot, but also a man of enemies. I have received letters, anonymous, venomous letters, accusing me of fraud and threatening my life." He produces a folded paper from his pocket, its edges worn from repeated handling. Poirot takes it, noting the jagged handwriting. "Your crimes will catch you, Harwood. Raven Street will be your end." "Most disturbing," Poirot murmurs, his fingers tracing the paper's creases. "And you suspect someone within your circle, perhaps?" Sir Reginald hesitates, his tick more pronounced. "I trust no one, not entirely. Allow me to introduce my household. You must understand the complexities of those around me." He rings a bell and the household assembles with the practiced efficiency of a well-run estate. First is Lady Evelyn Harwood, Sir Reginald's young wife, whose porcelain beauty is marred by a cold, distant gaze. Her silk gown shimmers in the firelight, but her hands twist nervously in her lap. She offers Poirot a curt nod, her lips pressed into a thin line. Next is Charles Harwood, Sir Reginald's nephew and heir, a lean man in his 30s with sharp features and sharper ambition. His eyes dart to his uncle, a flicker of resentment passing across his face before he masks it with a practiced smile. "Monsieur Poirot," he says, his tone polished but strained. "A pleasure, though I wish it were under better circumstances." Miss Clara Beaumont enters next, the governess to Sir Reginald's ward, young Emily. Clara's auburn hair is pinned neatly and her green eyes hold a quiet intelligence that intrigues Poirot. She carries herself with a poise that suggests more than her modest station, and her glance at Sir Reginald is unreadable. Emily, a pale girl of 12 with wide, anxious eyes, clings to Clara's side, saying nothing. Mr. Victor Grayson, a business associate, saunters in with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to charm. His tailored suit and gold cufflinks engraved with a bold V proclaim his wealth, but his smile is too wide, his handshake too firm. "Poirot, is it?" he says, lighting a cigarette. "Heard you're the best. Hope you can sort this mess." Mrs. Agnes Poole, the housekeeper, follows, her gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Her face is a mask of duty, but her eyes, sharp as flint, miss nothing. She nods stiffly to Poirot, her hands clasped tightly before her. Finally, Dr. Leonard Finch, the family physician, shuffles in, his spectacles slipping down his nose. His nervous demeanor and trembling hands suggest a man ill at ease in such company. Sir Reginald clears his throat. "These are the souls I live with, Monsieur Poirot. Each, I fear, could have reason to wish me ill. Evelyn perhaps resents our arrangement. Charles covets the Harwood fortune. Clara, well, her past is a mystery even to me. Victor's debts are no secret, and Agnes, loyal as she is, hears too much. As for Finch, he knows things about my health that could ruin me." Poirot listens, his head tilted, his fingers steepled. The room is a tapestry of motives: greed, jealousy, revenge, secrets. He observes the interplay: Evelyn's averted gaze, Charles's clenched jaw, Clara's calm scrutiny, Victor's forced nonchalance, Agnes's rigid silence, Finch's fidgeting. Each is a piece in a puzzle, and Poirot relishes the challenge. "Tell me, Sir Reginald," Poirot says, his voice soft but probing. "These letters, when did they begin?" 3 weeks ago, Sir Reginald replies. "The first arrived after a particularly sensitive business deal. I've made enemies in the city, men who'd see me ruined. But these letters feel personal, as if the writer knows me too well." Poirot nods, filing away the detail. He rises, pacing the room, his eyes lingering on the heavy curtains, the locked windows, the portrait of a stern Harwood ancestor glaring down. "I shall need access to your home, your papers, your secrets," he says. "The truth, it hides in the smallest of details." Sir Reginald agrees, his relief palpable. The household disperses, each member retreating with a glance at Poirot, some wary, some defiant. He lingers by the fire, the threatening letter still in hand. The fog outside presses against the windows, a silent accomplice to the mystery unfolding within. As the clock strikes midnight, its chimes reverberating through the house, a scream shatters the silence. It is sharp, raw, a cry of terror or pain echoing from the direction of Sir Reginald's study. The household stirs, footsteps pounding, voices rising in alarm. Poirot's eyes narrow, his pulse quickening. He strides toward the sound, his mind already racing, the little gray cells alight with possibilities. The study door is locked, the key nowhere in sight. Poirot calls for Sir Reginald, but there is no answer. The butler produces a spare key and the door swings open to reveal chaos. Papers scattered, a chair overturned, a bloodstain seeping into the Persian rug. But Sir Reginald Harwood is gone, vanished into the fog of Raven Street. Poirot stands in the center of the room, his gaze sweeping the scene. The window is bolted, the chimney too narrow for escape. A single clue rests on the desk, a gold cufflink engraved with the letter V. The household gathers at the threshold, their faces a mix of shock and suspicion. Poirot's lips curve into a faint smile. "Mes amis," he says, his voice calm, deliberate. "Out of the game. It has begun." Chapter 2. The Vanishing Act. The scream still echoes in Hercule Poirot's ears as he stands before the locked door of Sir Reginald Harwood's study, the heart of number 17 Raven Street. The midnight chime of the grandfather clock lingers, its solemn toll a counterpoint to the chaos unfolding. The household gathers in the dimly lit corridor, their faces pale in the flickering gaslight. Lady Evelyn Harwood, her silk gown askew, her eyes wide with something between fear and calculation. Charles Harwood, the ambitious nephew, his jaw tight with barely concealed agitation. Clara Beaumont, the governess, clutching young Emily's hand, her calm demeanor betrayed by a slight tremor. Victor Grayson, the suave business associate, his cigarette smoldering forgotten in his hand. Mrs. Agnes Poole, the housekeeper, her stern face unreadable. And Dr. Leonard Finch, the physician, his spectacles fogging with nervous sweat. "Monsieur Poirot, what has happened?" Evelyn's voice is sharp, cutting through the murmurs. Poirot raises a hand for silence, his eyes scanning the heavy oak door. The butler, Mr. Harrow, fumbles with a ring of keys, his gaunt hands trembling as he locates the spare. The lock clicks and the door swings inward with a groan, revealing a scene of disarray that stops the breath of all who peer inside. The study is a tempest frozen in time. Papers litter the floor, torn from their neat stacks on Sir Reginald's mahogany desk. A velvet-upholstered chair lies toppled, its legs jutting awkwardly. A crystal decanter has shattered, its amber contents pooling on the Persian rug, mingling with a darker stain, blood stark and glistening under the chandelier's light. Yet Sir Reginald Harwood is nowhere to be seen. The window, framed by heavy drapes, is bolted shut from within, its latch untouched. The fireplace, cold and narrow, offers no escape. On the desk, amidst the chaos, lies a single clue, a gold cufflink, its surface engraved with a bold V. Poirot steps into the room, his polished shoes avoiding the bloodstain as if it were a sacred boundary. "Mon Dieu," he murmurs, his voice a low, deliberate hum. "An impossible crime, n'est-ce pas?" His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, sweep the scene, cataloging every detail: the angle of the fallen chair, the precise scatter of papers, the blood's curious containment, as if poured rather than spilled. Inspector Japp arrives, his burly frame filling the doorway, his mustache bristling with indignation. "Poirot, what's this nonsense? A scream, a locked room, and no body? Sounds like murder to me, but where's the victim?" His constables cordon off the room, their boots heavy on the parquet floor. Poirot kneels by the bloodstain, his gloved fingers hovering above it. "Blood, Inspector, but not enough for a fatal wound, I think. And Sir Reginald, he is absent. This is no ordinary murder, if murder it be." He rises, his gaze settling on the cufflink. He lifts it with a handkerchief, turning it to catch the light. "V," he muses. "Victor, perhaps. Or vengeance. The clue, it is too obvious, none?" Japp snorts. "Obvious or not, it's evidence. Bag it, lads." He turns to the household, who hover like moths drawn to a flame. "Right. Who was where when that scream went up?" Evelyn speaks first, her voice steady but her hands twisting her pearl necklace. I was in my boudoir, preparing for bed. I heard the scream and came at once. Her alibi is simple, but her eyes avoid Poirot's, lingering instead on the bloodstain. Charles steps forward, his voice clipped. I was in the library reviewing accounts. I rushed here when I heard the cry. His fingers brush his cufflinks, plain silver, Poirot notes, not gold. Clara's tone is measured, her arm around Emily, who trembles silently. I was reading to Emily in her room. We heard the scream and came together. Emily nods, her eyes fixed on the floor as if afraid to meet Poirot's gaze. Victor exhales a plume of smoke, his charm fraying. I was at my club, the Palladium, until 11:30. Came back just before midnight, heard the scream as I entered. His cufflinks gleam, gold engraved with V. Poirot's eyebrow arches, but he says nothing. Agnes Poole's voice is flat, her hands clasped tightly. I was in the kitchen overseeing the staff. The scream brought me here. Her eyes dart to the desk where the cufflink rested moments ago. Dr. Finch mumbles, wiping his spectacles. I was in my room writing a prescription for a patient. I came as soon as I heard. His hands shake and a bead of sweat trails down his temple. Poirot listens, his head tilted, his fingers steepled. Each alibi is a thread in a tangled web, each suspect a knot of motive. Evelyn's loveless marriage, Charles' inheritance, Clara's mysterious past, Victor's debts, Agnes's omnipresent ears, Finch's nervous secrets, all pulse with possibility. He paces the study, his steps deliberate, his mind a whirlwind of deduction. Inspector, Poirot says, this room, it is a locked enigma. The door was bolted from within until Monsieur Harrow opened it. The window, it is secure. The chimney, too narrow even for a child. Yet Sir Reginald, he is gone and blood remains. We have a vanishing, not a murder yet. Japp frowns, scratching his chin. You're saying he walked out, in this fog with blood everywhere? Poppycock, Poirot. Someone did him in and hid the body. Perhaps, Poirot replies, his tone soft but firm. But the blood, it is too neat, too contained. And this cufflink, why leave it so prominently? It is a message, or a misdirection. He turns to the household. Mes amis, I shall need your cooperation. No one leaves this house until we uncover the truth. The suspects exchange glances, some defiant, others uneasy. Poirot's gaze lingers on Victor, whose cigarette trembles slightly, and on Clara, whose calm masks a flicker of something deeper, fear, perhaps, or guilt. He notes Emily's silence, her small hands clutching Clara's skirt. The child knows something, he thinks. But what? Japp orders a search of the house, his men fanning out to check every room, every cupboard. Poirot remains in the study, his eyes drawn to the desk. Among the scattered papers, he finds a ledger, its pages filled with coded entries, numbers and letters in a pattern that eludes immediate understanding. He tucks it under his arm, a puzzle for his gray cells. A photograph on the desk catches his eye. Sir Reginald and a younger man, perhaps a brother, their resemblance striking. The frame is askew as if knocked during a struggle. Outside, the fog presses against the windows, a silent witness to the night's events. Poirot steps to the window, testing the bolt again. It holds firm, no sign of tampering. He examines the fireplace, its grate cold, its flue too tight for passage. The room is a fortress, yet its master has vanished. A constable returns, breathless. No sign of Sir Reginald, sir. We've checked the attic, the cellar, the garden, nothing but fog and shadows. Japp growls. Then he's been spirited away or someone's hiding him. Poirot, what's your take? Poirot's lips curve into a faint smile. The take, Inspector, is that we are dealing with a mind most cunning. This is no mere disappearance. It is a performance, a stage set with blood and gold. But Poirot, he sees through the curtain. He turns to the household, his voice slow, deliberate, carrying the weight of certainty. The truth, it hides in the shadows of this impossible vanishing. But rest assured, mes amis, Hercule Poirot will find it. Chapter 3. The Grey Cells Stir. The study at number 17 Raven Street stands frozen in its chaos, a silent testament to the mystery of Sir Reginald Harwood's disappearance. Hercule Poirot, his silhouette sharp against the flickering gaslight, surveys the room with the precision of a watchmaker. The bloodstain on the Persian rug gleams, its edges too neat, too deliberate. The gold cufflink, engraved with a V, rests now in Inspector Japp's evidence bag, but its image lingers in Poirot's mind, a clue too bold to be trusted. The scattered papers, the toppled chair, the bolted window, all form a tableau that speaks of calculation, not impulse. Poirot's fingers adjust his silver pocket watch, its steady tick a metronome for his thoughts. The grey cells, he murmurs. They stir, mes amis. Inspector Japp paces the corridor, his heavy footsteps a contrast to Poirot's stillness. No body, no witnesses, no sense, Japp grumbles, his mustache twitching. This is a murder, Poirot, mark my words. Someone's done for Harwood and hidden him in this blasted fog. His constables comb the house, their voices echoing from the attic to the cellar, but they find nothing. No trace of Sir Reginald, living or dead. Poirot steps to the desk, his gloved hands sifting through the papers. The ledger he found last night, filled with coded entries, lies open before him. Its cryptic numbers and letters, perhaps a cipher, perhaps a financial record, hint at secrets Sir Reginald guarded closely. Poirot's eyes narrow as he traces a line, V12 3K. A name? A sum? A code? He tucks the ledger under his arm, a puzzle to be solved later. Nearby, the photograph of Sir Reginald and a younger man, possibly a brother, catches his eye again. The frame's misalignment nags at him, a detail out of place in this meticulous crime. He turns to the window, testing the bolt once more. It holds firm, its latch unmarred. The chimney, too, remains an impossible exit, its flue barely wide enough for a cat. A locked room, Poirot muses. Yet the man, he vanishes. This is a performance, Inspector, a drama staged for our benefit. Japp snorts but says nothing, his faith in Poirot's methods tempered by impatience. The household gathers in the drawing room, summoned by Poirot's request. Their faces are a gallery of unease. Lady Evelyn Harwood, her beauty strained by sleeplessness, twists a handkerchief. Charles Harwood, the nephew, leans against the mantel, his eyes darting. Clara Beaumont, the governess, stands protectively beside young Emily, whose silence is a weight of its own. Victor Grayson, his charm fraying, lights another cigarette. Mrs. Agnes Poole, the housekeeper, clasps her hands with rigid calm. Dr. Leonard Finch, the physician, fidgets with his spectacles, his nervous energy palpable. Monsieur Poirot, Evelyn begins, her voice brittle. Have you found my husband? This uncertainty is unbearable. Her words are sincere, but her eyes flick to Charles, a fleeting accusation. Poirot raises a hand, his tone slow, deliberate, a storyteller weaving suspense. Madame, the truth, it is like the fog outside. It conceals, but it cannot hide forever. I shall ask each of you to recount your evening once more, and this time, mes amis, I listen not only to your words, but to your silences. He begins with Evelyn, whose boudoir alibi holds but cracks under scrutiny. You were alone, madame? Poirot asks, his gaze piercing. No maid, no companion? Evelyn hesitates, admitting her maid retired early. Her hands tremble, betraying more than her words. Charles next claims the library, but Poirot notes a smudge of ink on his cuff. Not from accounts, but from a fountain pen, perhaps the one that wrote the threatening letters. You were writing, Monsieur Charles, Poirot probes. Charles flushes, insisting he was reviewing ledgers, not composing threats. Clara's story remains steady. She read to Emily. But Poirot observes the girl's clinging grip, her eyes darting to Clara as if seeking permission to speak. "Mademoiselle Emily," Poirot says gently, "you heard the scream, oui? Did you see anything unusual?" Emily shakes her head, but her fingers tighten on Clara's skirt. Victor's club alibi falters when Poirot questions the timing. "The Palladium is a brisk walk, Monsieur Grayson, yet you arrived just as the scream sounded. Most precise, no?" Victor's smile tightens, his cigarette burning to ash. Agnes Poole repeats her kitchen duties, but Poirot notes her apron pristine despite the late hour. "You oversee the staff, Madame Poole, yet you were alone? No cook, no scullery maid?" Her lips thin, but she insists the staff had retired. Dr. Finch last stammers through his prescription-writing alibi, his hands shaking so violently his spectacles slip. "A patient, doctor?" Poirot asks. "At midnight?" Finch mumbles about an urgent case, but his eyes avoid Poirot's. The interview's complete, Poirot paces the drawing room, his mind weaving connections. Each suspect's motive glimmers. Evelyn's loveless marriage, Charles' inheritance, Clara's guarded past, Victor's debts, Agnes's omnipresent ears, Finch's nervous secrets. But the locked room nags at him, an enigma that defies logic. Japp interrupts, his voice gruff. "We've searched the house, Poirot. Nothing. But I've dug into Harwood's business. The man's a crook, embezzled millions from clients, including Grayson and Charles. Motive aplenty, I'd say." He produces a file detailing Sir Reginald's fraudulent deals with a rival bank, the sums staggering. Poirot's eyes light up. "Most interesting, Inspector. A man with enemies in the city and within his home. The ledger, perhaps, holds the key." He opens it, pointing to the coded entry. V12-3K. This, it may name a person or a sum. Victor, perhaps, or another. A groundskeeper summoned by Japp offers a new clue. A cloaked figure seen lurking near the house before the scream, vanishing into the fog. "Tall, sir," the man says, "with a hood like a ghost." Poirot's lips curve. A ghost or a conspirator? To test the suspects, Poirot hosts a dinner that evening, the dining room aglow with candlelight. The table is a stage, each suspect an actor under his scrutiny. He plants a false clue, casually mentioning a witness who saw Sir Reginald alive after the scream. Evelyn gasps, Charles's fork pauses, Clara's eyes narrow. Victor spills his wine, Agnes stiffens, and Finch chokes on his soup. Poirot notes each reaction, his mind cataloging their tells. The dinner grows tense. Charles accuses Victor of blackmail, citing his debts. Evelyn snaps at Agnes for hovering too closely. Finch, flustered, knocks over a glass, his apologies frantic. Clara remains composed, but her hand rests protectively on Emily's shoulder. Poirot observes silent, his gray cells weaving a pattern from the chaos. As the meal ends, Poirot discovers a hidden safe behind a portrait in the study, its lock unforced. Inside, he finds a second threatening letter. "Your sins are known, Harwood," the Raven watches. The handwriting matches the first, but the paper is fresher, suggesting recent composition. Poirot tucks it away, his mind racing. He steps into the garden, the fog curling around him like a living thing. The groundskeeper's tale of the cloaked figure lingers, a shadow in his thoughts. He examines the ground near the study window, finding nothing but damp earth. Yet a faint scent, cigar smoke, perhaps Victor's brand, lingers in the air. Back inside, Poirot gathers the household once more. "Mes amis," he says, his voice a velvet blade, "this crime, it is not what it seems. The locked room, the blood, the cufflink, they are pieces of a puzzle, but the picture, it is incomplete. Tomorrow we shall see more clearly." Chapter 4. Clues and Deceptions. The morning after the scream, Raven Street is shrouded in a fog so thick it seems to cloak the very truth. Inside number 17, Hercule Poirot stands in Sir Reginald Harwood's study, the scene of the impossible crime. The bloodstain on the Persian rug has dried to a rusty brown, its edges still unnaturally precise. The toppled chair, the scattered papers, the bolted window, all remain as they were, a silent challenge to Poirot's intellect. He adjusts his silver pocket watch, its tick a steady pulse against the oppressive quiet, and murmurs, "The clues they whisper, but some, they lie." Inspector Japp, his mustache bristling with frustration, oversees his constables as they comb the house for traces of Sir Reginald. "Nothing, Poirot," he grumbles, pacing the corridor. "No body, no footprints in the garden, no sign of a struggle beyond this room. It's as if the man dissolved into the fog." Poirot's lips curve faintly, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of the puzzle. Dissolved, no, but hidden perhaps by a mind most cunning. Poirot returns to the desk, where the ledger of coded entries, V12-3K among others, sits beside the second threatening letter. "Your sins are known, Harwood. The Raven watches." He traces the jagged handwriting, noting its similarity to the first letter but also its fresher ink, as if penned mere days ago. The letter's tone, personal and venomous, suggests an intimate betrayal. Poirot's mind churns. A rival banker, a wronged associate, or someone closer still? His inspection of the study yields a new clue. A torn scrap of emerald green fabric no larger than a postage stamp caught on the edge of a bookcase. He holds it to the light, noting its fine weave, silk perhaps matching the shade of Lady Evelyn Harwood's gown from the previous evening. "Interesting," he murmurs, slipping it into his pocket. A deliberate clue or an accidental trace? Outside, a groundskeeper's tale of a cloaked figure lingers in Poirot's thoughts. He steps into the garden, the fog curling around his ankles like a living thing. The earth beneath the study window is damp but undisturbed. No footprints to betray an escape, yet a faint indentation catches his eye. A shallow groove as if something heavy was dragged briefly and then lifted. He kneels, his gloved fingers probing the soil, and finds a second clue. A gold cufflink, identical to the first but engraved with a C. Charles, perhaps? Or another misdirection? Poirot tucks it away, his mind weaving connections. Back inside, Poirot gathers the household in the parlor, their faces a mix of weariness and wariness. Lady Evelyn sits stiffly, her hands folded. Charles leans against a wall, his eyes evasive. Clara Beaumont holds Emily's hand, her calm a shield. Victor Grayson lights a cigarette, his cufflinks glinting. Mrs. Agnes Poole stands like a sentinel. Dr. Leonard Finch fidgets, his spectacles slipping. "Mes amis," Poirot begins, his voice slow and deliberate. "The truth, it is a puzzle, and we have found new pieces, but beware, some are false." He questions Evelyn first, holding up the scrap of fabric. "Madame, this silk, it is yours, we—" Evelyn pales, her fingers tightening. I may have brushed against the bookcase yesterday. It means nothing." Her denial is swift, but her eyes betray a flicker of fear. Poirot notes it, moving on. Charles, confronted with the second cufflink, bristles. "Mine are silver, Poirot, as you saw. This is a plant, a trick." His indignation rings true, but Poirot observes his clenched fists, a sign of deeper unease. Clara's response is measured. "Emily and I were in her room, as I said. The study is no place for us." Yet Emily's eyes, wide and silent, linger on the cufflink, as if it holds a secret she cannot voice. Poirot makes a mental note to speak with the child alone. Victor laughs, a hollow sound. "Another cufflink? Someone's trying to pin this on me, Poirot. My debts are no secret, but I'm no murderer." His bravado falters as Poirot mentions the cloaked figure, his cigarette pausing mid-air. Agnes Poole, when asked about the study, admits to cleaning it earlier that day. "I noticed nothing amiss, sir," she says, her voice flat. Yet Poirot catches her glance at Evelyn, a fleeting accusation. Dr. Finch, last, stammers when Poirot produces a new clue. A medical syringe found in his bag during a discreet search, its tip bearing traces of a sedative. "It's for patients," Finch protests, his hands shaking. I prescribe it for nerves." Poirot's eyebrow arches. "For Sir Reginald's nerves, perhaps?" The interrogations yield a tapestry of half-truths. Poirot retreats to the study, where a neighbor's report, relayed by Japp, adds a red herring. A loud bang mistaken for a gunshot heard near the house before the scream. Investigation reveals it was a car backfiring in the fog, a false lead that wastes an hour. Another distraction comes from a maid who swears she saw a ghostly figure in the garden, a shadow Poirot deduces cast by the fog and a lantern. He tests the locked room again, confirming no secret. Passages exist. The window's bolt is pristine, the chimney impassable. Yet the groove in the garden nags at him. A clue to the vanishing, perhaps. He examines the rug, lifting it to reveal a trapdoor, its edges flush with the floor. Heart racing, he opens it, only to find a shallow compartment, empty save for dust. A deliberate misdirection, he realizes, designed to confuse. Poirot's inquiries take him to Clara's past, prompted by a whispered tip from Agnes. "She was dismissed from a post in Bristol," Agnes confides, "under a cloud of scandal. A banker, they said, was involved." Poirot confronts Clara, who admits to a past employer's ruin but denies involvement in Sir Reginald's fate. Her eyes, however, hold a shadow of pain, hinting at deeper motives. Charles, cornered later, reveals Evelyn's affair with an unknown man, fueling her motive for freedom. "She despised my uncle," he says, his voice bitter. "She'd do anything to escape." Poirot files this away, noting Charles's own ambition, a fortune within reach if Sir Reginald is gone. Agnes, pressed further, confesses she overheard Sir Reginald arguing with Finch days ago. Something about a dangerous secret. Finch, when confronted, admits to prescribing sedatives for Sir Reginald but denies any argument. His panic, though, betrays him. A final clue emerges. A forged painting, a supposed Rembrandt hanging in the study. Poirot, with his knowledge of art, spots its flaws. Brushstrokes too modern, colors too vibrant. Was Sir Reginald trafficking forgeries? The clue misleads, as Japp confirms the painting is a family heirloom, unrelated to the crime. Yet it deepens the banker's deceit, a man whose life was a web of lies. As evening falls, the fog thickens, cloaking Raven Street in secrecy. Poirot stands in the study, the ledger open, the cufflinks and fabric in his pocket, the threatening letter in hand. "The criminal," he says softly. "They play a clever game, but Poirot, he is cleverer. The trapdoor, the bloodstain, the clues, all point to a mind orchestrating chaos. But whose?" Chapter 5. Twists in the fog. The fog on Raven Street thickens as dawn breaks, its tendrils curling around number 17 like a shroud. Hercule Poirot stands in Sir Reginald Harwood's study, the scene of the impossible crime, his silver pocket watch ticking softly in his gloved hand. The bloodstain on the Persian rug, now a dull crimson, mocks him with its precision. The scattered papers, the toppled chair, the bolted window, the empty trapdoor, all are pieces of a puzzle that refuses to align. The gold cufflinks, one marked V, the other C, rest in his pocket beside the scrap of emerald silk and the threatening letters. The ledger's coded entries, V12 3K among others, sit open on the desk, a cipher taunting his gray cells. "The truth," Poirot murmurs. "It twists like the fog itself." Inspector Japp bursts into the study, his face grim. Poirot, we've got him, or what's left of him. Sir Reginald's body found in an alley a street over, stabbed clean through. The news lands like a thunderclap. Poirot's eyes narrow, his mind racing. Stabbed, you say? And when, Inspector? Japp consults his notes. Doctor says he died around 1 a.m., an hour after the scream. The blood in here, it's not human, likely animal staged to throw us off. Poirot's lips curve faintly. Mon Dieu, a performance indeed. The locked room, it was a ruse, a distraction to confuse the timeline. Sir Reginald, he left this study alive only to meet his end in the alley. He paces, his polished shoes silent on the rug. The blood stain, the cufflinks, the trapdoor, all props in a clever charade. But why? The household gathers in the parlor, their faces a mix of shock and dread. Lady Evelyn Harwood clutches her pearls, her beauty strained. Charles Harwood, the nephew, grips the arm of a chair, his knuckles white. Clara Beaumont, the governess, holds young Emily close, her calm fraying. Victor Grayson, the business associate, stubs out a cigarette, his charm gone. Mrs. Agnes Poole, the housekeeper, stands rigid. Dr. Leonard Finch, the physician, fumbles with his spectacles, his panic palpable. Poirot addresses them, his voice slow, deliberate, a velvet blade. Mes amis, the mystery deepens. Sir Reginald was not murdered here, but in an alley, stabbed after the scream we all heard. The locked room, it was a lie. Someone wished us to believe he vanished to obscure the truth. But Poirot, he sees through the fog. He begins with Evelyn, probing her affair. Madame, you were unhappy in your marriage. Perhaps a lover wished to free you. Evelyn flushes, admitting to an affair with Dr. Finch, who supplied sedatives for Sir Reginald's nerves. It was nothing more, she insists, her voice trembling. Finch, sweating, confirms the affair but denies violence. I cared for her, yes, but murder? Never. Poirot notes their shared glance, a thread of complicity. Charles, confronted next, admits to forging the threatening letters. I wanted to pressure him, make him name me heir outright, he confesses, his eyes defiant. But I didn't kill him. Poirot observes his ink-stained cuffs, a detail tying him to the letters but not the murder. Clara's past surfaces as Poirot presses her. Mademoiselle, you were dismissed in Bristol, accused of scandal with a banker. Was it Sir Reginald? Clara's eyes flash with pain. He ruined my reputation, yes, but I stayed for Emily's sake. I'd never kill. Her sincerity rings true, but her protectiveness of Emily hints at deeper motives. Victor, his debts a known motive, scoffs at the cufflink marked V. A frame, Poirot. My debts were to a rival bank, not Harwood. Someone's playing me. Yet his nervous puff on a cigarette betrays unease. Poirot recalls the cigar smoke scent near the study window. A clue, perhaps. Agnes Poole, fiercely loyal, admits to hiding a bloody rag from the kitchen, fearing it implicated the household. I thought it was from butchering meat, she says, her voice flat. Poirot's eyebrow arches, animal blood, matching Japp's findings. A new twist shakes the house. Emily, the ward, is missing. Clara's composure cracks as she searches, her voice sharp with fear. She was in her room, I swear. Poirot organizes a search, his mind alert to a connection. Was Emily's disappearance tied to the murder? He finds her in the attic, curled in a corner, trembling. I saw him, she whispers, her eyes wide. A man with no face near the study before the scream. Poirot kneels beside her, his voice gentle. No face, ma petite? A mask, perhaps, or a hood? Emily nods, clutching a doll. He was tall, in a cloak like a shadow. The groundskeeper's tale of a cloaked figure echoes in Poirot's mind. A hired killer or a disguised conspirator? He gathers the household again, planting a new test. Mes amis, A witness claims to have seen Sir Reginald in the alley arguing before his death. Who might he have met? Evelyn gasps. Charles stiffens. Victor curses under his breath. Finch drops his spectacles. Agnes remains stone-faced, and Clara clutches Emily tighter. Their reactions form a mosaic of guilt and fear. Poirot returns to the study, examining the forged Rembrandt painting again. Its flaws, modern brushstrokes, vibrant hues, suggest art fraud, but Japp confirms it's a harmless heirloom. Another red herring, yet it deepens Sir Reginald's deceitful nature. The ledger's code nags at Poirot. He tests a theory, cross-referencing the entries with bank records Japp provides. V123K aligns with a transaction to Victor's rival bank, but the sum is too small to be motive alone. A final clue emerges. A coded telegram in Sir Reginald's desk, written in a Belgian naval cipher Poirot recognizes from his youth in Ostend. He decodes it. Syndicate demands payment. Raven falls tonight. The syndicate, a shadowy group tied to Sir Reginald's fraud, looms larger. Was the murder their work or a pawn's? Poirot steps into the garden, the fog swallowing sound. He retraces the groove near the window, now suspecting a body was dragged briefly before being carried to the alley. The cigar smoke scent, Victor's brand, lingers, but so does a faint whiff of antiseptic pointing to Finch. Poirot's mind races, a conspiracy with one orchestrator manipulating others. As night falls, he chases a shadow in the fog. A cloaked figure glimpsed chases a shadow in the fog. A cloaked figure glimpsed near the garden wall. His polished shoes slip on damp cobblestones as he pursues, heart pounding. But the figure vanishes into the mist. Was it Emily's man with no face? Poirot's breath steams in the cold, his mind alight with a theory. The murder was a staged act. The locked room a diversion, but the killer miscalculated, leaving Sir Reginald to die later. He gathers the household one last time, his voice a calm anchor. Mes amis. The fog lifts slowly, but the truth, it emerges. Sir Reginald's death was no accident, nor was his vanishing. Someone among you, or beyond, wove this web. Tomorrow, we shall cut its threads. Chapter 6. The net tightens. The fog on Raven Street clings like a second skin, its damp tendrils seeping into the bones of number 17. Hercule Poirot stands in Sir Reginald Harwood's study, the epicenter of an impossible crime, his silver pocket watch ticking softly in his gloved hand. The bloodstain on the Persian rug, now confirmed as animal blood, mocks the initial illusion of murder. The gold cufflinks, one marked V, the other C, rest in his pocket alongside the emerald silk scrap, the threatening letters, and the decoded telegram. Syndicate demands payment. Raven falls tonight. The ledger's cryptic entries, V123K and others, lie open on the desk, a cipher partially cracked but still elusive. Poirot's eyes gleam with the thrill of the chase. The net, he murmurs. It tightens, mes amis. Inspector Japp, his face etched with fatigue, strides into the study. Poirot, we've got nothing new. No prints, no witnesses, just this blasted fog swallowing every lead. The syndicate angle's promising, though. Harwood's fraud hit some powerful players in the city. He tosses a file onto the desk, detailing Sir Reginald's embezzlement from a shadowy group tied to Victor Grayson's rival bank. Could be they hired a killer, Japp adds. But that locked room still doesn't add up. Poirot nods, his fingers tracing the telegram's words. The syndicate, we. But the hand that struck was closer, I think. The locked room, the blood, the cufflinks. These are the work of a mind within this house manipulating the stage. He recalls young Emily's trembling words, a man with no face, a cloaked figure in the fog. The groundskeeper's sighting echoes in his mind, as does his own chase through the misty garden, the shadow slipping away like a specter. Poirot gathers the household in the drawing room, the air heavy with candlelight and suspicion. Lady Evelyn Harwood sits rigid, her beauty strained by sleeplessness. Charles Harwood, the nephew, grips a brandy glass, his eyes darting. Clara Beaumont, the governess, holds Emily's hand, her calm a fragile mask. Victor Grayson stubs out a cigarette, his charm replaced by unease. Mrs. Agnes Poole, the housekeeper, stands like a statue. Dr. Leonard Finch, the physician, fumbles with his spectacles, his panic barely contained. Mes amis, Poirot begins, his voice slow, deliberate, a storyteller weaving suspense. The truth emerges piece by piece. Sir Reginald was stabbed in an alley, not here. The bloodstain, it was animal blood staged to deceive. The locked room, a ruse to confuse the time of death. Someone among you, or guided by you, played this game. But Poirot, he sees the threads. He holds up the telegram, watching their faces. This message speaks of a syndicate, a demand for payment. Sir Reginald's fraud angered powerful men, but the murder, it was personal. Who among you knew of this syndicate? Evelyn gasps. Charles stiffens. Victor's cigarette pauses. Finch drops his spectacles. Agnes remains impassive, and Clara's eyes narrow, shielding Emily. Poirot begins his revelations, testing each suspect. To Evelyn, he says, "Madam, your affair with Dr. Finch, did it lead to a plan to free you from Sir Reginald?" Evelyn flushes, her voice sharp. "We loved, yes, but murder? No!" Finch, sweating, nods frantically. "I gave him sedatives, nothing more." Poirot notes their shared glance, a flicker of collusion. To Charles, he presents the forged letters. "You wrote these, monsieur, to pressure your uncle. Did you also arrange his end?" Charles slams his glass down. "I wanted the fortune, not his blood. Those letters were a scare, nothing else." His anger rings true, but his ink-stained cuffs betray a deeper involvement. Clara, pressed about her past, admits her scandal in Bristol. "Sir Reginald exposed my employer's fraud, costing me my position. I despised him, but I stayed for Emily." Poirot recalls a new clue, a coded note found in Sir Reginald's desk drawer, overlooked until now. It reads, "CB betrayed us, 1920. He confronts her. "Mademoiselle, you were a whistleblower, oui? You exposed Sir Reginald's fraud years ago, ruining your name. Revenge, it is a powerful motive." Clara's eyes blaze. "I sought justice, not murder." Emily clings to her, silent but watchful. Victor, accused of syndicate ties, laughs bitterly. "My debts were to their bank, not Harwood. Someone's framing me with that cufflink." Yet Poirot recalls the cigar smoke near the study window, Victor's brand. "You were there, monsieur, before the scream, non?" Victor pales, his denial weak. Agnes, questioned about the bloody rag, admits to hiding it. "I thought it was kitchen waste, sir, to protect the house's name." Her loyalty is fierce, but Poirot senses she knows more, her eyes lingering on Evelyn. Finch, cornered about the syringe, stammers. "It was for Sir Reginald's nerves, I swear," Poirot presses. "Or to subdue him, doctor, before luring him to the alley." Finch's panic spikes, his hands shaking violently. A new discovery shifts the puzzle. Emily's testimony about the man with no face. Poirot takes her aside, his voice gentle. "Ma petite, this man, he was tall, cloaked, oui? Did you see his eyes?" Emily whispers. "They were dark, like Dr. Finch's." Poirot's pulse quickens. Finch, in a cloak, perhaps? Or a hired killer, disguised to shield the true orchestrator? He decodes the ledger further, cross-referencing Japp's files. V123K points to a payment, to Victor's rival bank, but another entry, F85M, suggests Finch received funds, possibly blackmail. Poirot's theory solidifies. The syndicate pressured someone in the house, but the murder was a personal act, cloaked in their shadow. To provoke reactions, Poirot gathers the household again, revealing partial truths. The blood was staged, he says, watching Victor sweat. The body was moved, he adds, noting Clara's blanching face. And the cloaked figure, he concludes, was no ghost but a conspirator. Finch drops his glass, shattering it. Evelyn gasps, Charles curses, Agnes stiffens, Victor's cigarette burns to ash. Poirot steps into the garden, the fog swallowing sound. He retraces the groove near the window, now certain a body was dragged briefly before being carried. The antiseptic scent, Finch's, lingers, mingling with cigar smoke. He recalls the chase, the cloaked figure vanishing. A disguise, he murmurs, to hide the killer's face. A final clue emerges. A torn page from the ledger found in the fireplace, half burned. It lists a syndicate contact, a man named Raven. Poirot's eyes gleam. The Raven watches, he whispers, echoing the threatening letter. The syndicate's role is clear, but the killer's hand is closer. He confronts Finch alone, his voice a velvet trap. Doctor, you knew Sir Reginald's secrets, his health, his fraud. Did the syndicate pay you to act, or did you seize the chance for yourself? Finch collapses, sobbing, but denies murder. They threatened me, he whispers, but I only sedated him. Poirot's mind races. Finch, a pawn perhaps, but whose? Chapter 7. The Unveiling. The fog on Raven Street hangs heavy, its gray tendrils pressing against the windows of number 17, as if reluctant to release its secrets. Inside the drawing room, Hercule Poirot stands before a crackling fire, his silver pocket watch ticking softly in his gloved hand. The household gathers, their faces a gallery of tension. Lady Evelyn Harwood, her beauty strained by fear. Charles Harwood, the nephew, gripping a chair, his eyes defiant. Clara Beaumont, the governess, shielding young Emily, her calm fraying. Victor Grayson, his cigarette unlit, his charm extinguished. Mrs. Agnes Poole, the housekeeper, rigid as stone. Dr. Leonard Finch, the physician, trembling, his spectacles fogged with sweat. Inspector Japp stands by the door, his mustache bristling, his notebook ready. Poirot's voice, slow and deliberate, cuts through the silence like a velvet blade. Mes amis, the time has come. The mystery of Sir Reginald Harwood's vanishing, his murder in the alley, the locked room, the blood stain, all these threads, they weave a tapestry of deception. But Hercule Poirot, he sees the pattern, and tonight the truth shall be unveiled. He paces, his polished shoes silent on the parquet floor, his eyes sweeping the room. Let us begin with the crime. Sir Reginald was not murdered in the study as the bloodstain suggested. That blood, it was animal, staged to deceive. The locked room, a ruse to confuse the timeline. He left the study alive only to be stabbed in an alley at 1 a.m., an hour after the scream we heard. The question is, who orchestrated this performance and why? He holds up the gold cufflinks, one marked V, the other C. These they were planted to mislead. Victor, Charles, your initials, we, but too obvious, too crude. A clever mind wished to cast suspicion, to muddy the waters. Victor shifts uncomfortably, Charles's jaw tightens, but Poirot's gaze moves on. He produces the threatening letters and the decoded telegram. Syndicate demands payment. Raven falls tonight. Sir Reginald's fraud angered a powerful syndicate, yes, but the murder, it was personal, not their work. The ledger's codes, V12 3K, F85M, point to payments, perhaps blackmail. And young Emily's faceless man, the cloaked figure in the fog, he is no ghost, but a conspirator. Poirot turns to Dr. Finch, whose hands shake violently. Doctor, you are the key. You admitted to sedating Sir Reginald, to an affair with Lady Evelyn, to receiving funds, F85M, we... But there is more. Sir Reginald discovered your secret, did he not? Your illegal medical practices, prescribing drugs for profit, endangering lives. He threatened to expose you, to ruin you. Finch collapses into a chair, sobbing. Yes, yes, he knew. He was going to report me, destroy my career, but I didn't kill him, I swear. His voice cracks, but Poirot's eyes are unrelenting. You did more than swear, Doctor, Poirot continues. You staged the locked room. You sedated Sir Reginald in the study using the syringe we found. You arranged the bloodstain, animal blood from the kitchen procured by your access as the family physician. You planted the cufflinks, one to implicate Victor, the other Charles. You created the trapdoor's illusion, a false clue to confuse. Then you lured Sir Reginald to the alley, perhaps with a promise of reconciliation, and there you stabbed him. The room gasps. Evelyn cries out, No, Leonard wouldn't. Charles mutters a curse. Victor's cigarette falls. Clara clutches Emily, and Agnes's face remains a mask. Japp steps forward, his voice sharp. Poirot, you're sure? That's a bold accusation. Poirot nods, his voice steady. The evidence, it speaks. The antiseptic scent near the study window, your scent, Doctor. The groove in the garden where you dragged Sir Reginald briefly before carrying him to the alley. Emily's faceless man. Your eyes, Doctor, seen through a hooded cloak, as she described. And the syndicate? They pressured you, threatening exposure if you did not act. But the murder, it was your choice, your desperation. Finch's sobs turned to a wail. They forced me. The syndicate. They knew about my dealings, said they'd ruin me if I didn't stop Harwood. I sedated him, yes, to talk, to reason, but he laughed, mocked me, said I'd hang for my crimes. I lost control, the knife, it was in my bag for protection. I didn't mean to. He buries his face in his hands. Poirot's eyes soften, but his voice remains firm. You meant to deceive, Doctor. The scream, it was not Sir Reginald's but yours, staged to set the timeline. You bolted the door from within, then exited through the house, unseen in the chaos. The fog, it was your ally, hiding your path to the alley. He turns to the household, addressing their roles. Madam Evelyn, your affair gave Finch courage, but you did not kill. Monsieur Charles, your letters pressured your uncle, but you sought only his fortune. Mademoiselle Clara, your past with Sir Reginald fueled suspicion, but your heart was with Emily, protecting her. Monsieur Victor, your debts and the syndicate's shadow cast doubt, but you were a pawn, not a killer. Madame Poole, your loyalty hid evidence, but you did not strike. Clara speaks, her voice trembling. Then Emily, she's safe now. Poirot nods. Oui, mademoiselle. Her faceless man is unmasked, her fears laid to rest. Japp steps forward, handcuffs gleaming. Dr. Finch, you're under arrest for the murder of Sir Reginald Harwood. Finch rises, defeated, as the constables lead him away. The room exhales, the weight of truth settling like dust. Poirot addresses the syndicate's role. The Raven, their agent, pressured Finch, but the murder was his act. The ledger and telegram, they will aid your investigation, Inspector, to expose their web. But here, in this house, justice is served. Evelyn collapses into a chair, tears streaming. I never wanted this, she whispers. Charles, his ambition tempered, nods silently. Clara hugs Emily, who buries her face in her governess's shoulder. Victor lights a new cigarette, his hands steady for the first time. Agnes, her duty fulfilled, softens slightly. Her eyes on Poirot with grudging respect. Poirot steps to the window, the fog thinning as dawn approaches. The human heart, he muses. It is a labyrinth, full of greed, fear, love. Yet the truth, it always finds a way. He tucks his pocket watch away, its tick a reminder of time's relentless march. Japp claps him on the shoulder. You've done it again, Poirot. A locked room, a vanishing, and you still sniffed out the killer. I'll need a full report for the yard. Poirot smiles faintly. Of course, Inspector. The gray cells, they do not fail. As the household disperses, Poirot lingers, his mind replaying the case. The staged blood, the planted cufflinks, the empty trapdoor, all were Finch's desperate attempt to obscure his crime. Emily's testimony, the syndicate's shadow, the ledger's codes, all converge to reveal him. Yet Poirot feels a pang of pity for the man driven to murder by fear and blackmail. He steps into the study one last time, the scene now quiet, its chaos resolved. The bloodstain, a lie, the cufflinks, a misdirection, the telegram, a clue to a larger web. He closes the ledger, its secrets no longer a threat. Justice, he whispers, it is not vengeance, but order restored. Chapter 8. Reflections in the Fog. The fog on Raven Street begins to lift, its gray veil parting to reveal the first pale rays of a London dawn. Inside number 17, the grand townhouse feels quieter now, as if the revelation of Dr. Leonard Finch's guilt has exorcised a lingering specter. Hercule Poirot stands in the drawing room, his silver pocket watch ticking softly in his gloved hand, its steady rhythm a counterpoint to the emotional tumult of the past hours. The fire in the hearth has dwindled to embers, casting a warm glow across the mahogany paneling. But the air carries a chill, the residue of secrets laid bare. Inspector Japp, his notebook tucked away, lingers by the door, his burly frame softened by fatigue. "Well, Poirot," he says, his mustache twitching with a mix of admiration and exasperation, "you've done it again. A locked room, a vanished banker, and you sniffed out Finch like a bloodhound. The Yard'll have a field day with this one." He glances at the household, dispersed now to their private griefs and guilts, and adds, "Though I reckon this lot's got more to sort out than just a murder." Poirot's lips curve into a faint smile, his eyes reflective. "Oui, Inspector, the crime is solved, but the heart, it remains a mystery. The gray cells, they uncover the truth, but the human soul, it is not so easily resolved." He adjusts his pocket watch, its tick a reminder of time's unyielding march, and steps to the window. The fog, though thinning, still clings to Raven Street, a metaphor for the moral ambiguities he has navigated. The household, shaken by Finch's arrest, begins to grapple with the aftermath. Lady Evelyn Harwood sits alone in the parlor, her silk gown replaced by a simple black dress, her beauty softened by vulnerability. She stares into the fire, her hands no longer twisting her pearls but resting limply in her lap. Poirot approaches, his voice gentle. "Madam, you are free now in a manner, but freedom, it carries its own weight, non?" Evelyn's eyes meet his, glistening with unshed tears. "I loved Leonard, Monsieur Poirot, but I didn't know he'd go so far. I thought we could escape Reginald's cruelty together, not like this." Her voice breaks, and Poirot nods, understanding the tangled knot of love and betrayal. "You must find a new path, madame," he says, "one unclouded by the shadows of this house." In the library, Charles Harwood pores over documents, his ambition tempered by the weight of inheritance. Poirot finds him there, surrounded by ledgers, not the coded one now in Japp's custody, but the mundane records of the Harwood estate. "Monsieur Charles," Poirot says, "the fortune, you saw it, it is yours. But at what cost?" Charles looks up, his sharp features softened by introspection. "I pushed him, Poirot, with those letters. I thought I could force his hand, not end his life." He pauses, his voice low. "I'll make it right. Reform the business, clear his debts. It's the least I can do." Poirot nods, noting the sincerity in Charles's eyes. "The past, it cannot be undone, but the future, it is yours to shape." He leaves Charles to his papers, sensing a man at a crossroads, his greed giving way to responsibility. In the nursery, Clara Beaumont sits with Emily, the young ward whose testimony about the man with no face helped unmask Finch. Clara's auburn hair is loose now, her calm facade replaced by a fierce protectiveness. Emily clings to her, her doll clutched tightly. Mademoiselle Clara, Poirot says, his tone soft. You shielded this child through a storm. Your past, it haunted you, but your heart, it is true. Clara's green eyes meet his, shimmering with resolve. Sir Reginald ruined me in Bristol, exposed my whistleblowing to save himself. I stayed for Emily to keep her safe from his neglect. Now I'll be her guardian if the courts allow. Emily looks up, her voice small. You won't leave me, Clara? Clara hugs her tightly. Never, darling. Poirot smiles, his faith in human goodness restored by their bond. Victor Grayson, alone in the garden, lights a cigarette, its glow a beacon in the fading fog. Poirot joins him, noting the absence of his usual bravado. Monsieur Victor, he says, your debts, they cast a shadow, but you were no killer. The cufflink, it was a cruel trick. Victor exhales, his voice bitter. I thought I was in deep with the syndicate, Poirot, but Finch used me as a decoy. I'm done with gambling. Time to face my creditors, start clean. Poirot nods, sensing a man ready to shed his reckless skin. Mrs. Agnes Poole in the kitchen oversees the staff with her usual severity, but her hands tremble slightly as she polishes silver. Poirot approaches, his voice kind. Madame Poole, your loyalty to this house, it led you to hide evidence, but your heart, it sought to protect. Agnes's stern face softens, a rare crack in her armor. I thought I was saving them, sir. Evelyn, Charles, even the child. I was wrong to hide that rag. Poirot places a hand on her shoulder. The truth, it frees us all, madame. Poirot returns to the drawing room where Japp awaits, sipping tea. The syndicate, Poirot, Japp says. They're a slippery lot. That telegram and ledger'll help, but catching the raven, that's another case. Poirot's eyes gleam. A challenge for another day, Inspector. For now the murder is solved and justice it is served. They sit by the fire, the silence companionable. Poirot reflects on the case, his mind replaying its intricacies. The staged bloodstain, animal blood from the kitchen, was Finch's first deception, designed to suggest a murder in the study. The cufflinks planted to frame Victor and Charles were a desperate flourish. The empty trapdoor, a clever misdirection to fuel the locked room myth. The telegram, decoded with Poirot's knowledge of Belgian ciphers, revealed the syndicate's pressure. But Finch's personal fear of exposure, ruin, and Sir Reginald's mockery drove the fatal blow in the alley. The human heart, Poirot says, his voice low. It is a labyrinth, Inspector. Greed, fear, love, loyalty. All collide in this house. Finch, he was a man cornered, his weakness exploited by the syndicate, his desperation turned to murder. Japp nods, his gruffness softened. You see it all, don't you, Poirot? The why, not just the how. Poirot smiles faintly. The why, it is the soul of the crime. Without it, the how is merely mechanics. He thinks of Emily's fear, Clara's sacrifice, Evelyn's regret, Charles's ambition, Victor's debts, Agnes's duty. Each played a role, not in the murder, but in the tapestry of human frailty that made it possible. As morning fully breaks, the household begins to heal. Evelyn plans to leave London, seeking a quieter life, perhaps abroad. Charles, now head of the Harwood estate, vows to unravel his uncle's fraudulent deals, restoring the family's name. Clara petitions for Emily's guardianship, her resolve unshaken. Victor, chastened, contacts his creditors, determined to rebuild. Agnes, her loyalty tested, considers retirement, her duty to number 17 fulfilled. Poirot steps into the study one last time, the scene now orderly, its secrets laid bare. The bloodstain cleaned by the staff leaves no trace. The ledger and telegram, now with Japp, will fuel a broader investigation. The forged Rembrandt, a harmless heirloom, hangs straight once more. Poirot's fingers brush the desk. his mind at peace. "The gray cells," he murmurs. "They find order in chaos." He leaves the room, his hat and cane in hand, ready to depart Raven Street. The fog, now a faint mist, parts to reveal the cobblestones gleaming in the dawn. Jap joins him at the door, offering a rare grin. "You're off, then. Another case solved, another villain caught." Poirot nods, his mustache twitching. "For now, Inspector. But the world, it is full of puzzles, and Poirot, he is never idle." Chapter 9. The banker's legacy. The dawn light filters through the thinning fog on Raven Street, casting number 17 in a soft, almost forgiving glow. Hercule Poirot stands in the grand foyer of the Harwood townhouse, his silver pocket watch ticking softly in his gloved hand, a steady pulse amidst the quiet aftermath of justice. The air, once thick with suspicion, now carries a tentative hope, as if the house itself exhales after Dr. Leonard Finch's arrest. The bloodstain, the cufflinks, the threatening letters, the coded ledger, all pieces of a puzzle Poirot has meticulously assembled, yet his gray cells hum, sensing one final thread in the tapestry of Sir Reginald's life. Inspector Jap, his coat slung over his arm, joins Poirot in the foyer, his mustache twitching with satisfaction. "A fine piece of work, Poirot," he says, his voice gruff but warm. "Finch is locked up, the syndicate's on our radar, and this house might finally sleep easy. Though I'll wager you're not done poking about, eh?" Poirot's lips curve into a faint smile, his eyes gleaming. "The case. It is solved, Inspector, but the story, it has one more chapter. The legacy of Sir Reginald. It must be resolved." Poirot's thoughts drift to the household, each member grappling with the fallout of the banker's death. Lady Evelyn Harwood, her beauty no longer a mask for despair, has spoken of leaving London, perhaps to find peace in the countryside. Charles Harwood, now heir to the fractured Harwood empire, has vowed to reform its shady dealings. Clara Beaumont, the steadfast governess, fights for custody of young Emily, the ward whose testimony helped crack the case. Victor Grayson, chastened by his debts, seeks a fresh start, while Mrs. Agnes Poole, the loyal housekeeper, contemplates retirement. Their paths, intertwined by tragedy, now diverge toward redemption. Or so Poirot hopes. He returns to Sir Reginald's study, the room now tidied, its chaos a memory. The Persian rug, cleaned of its staged bloodstain, lies pristine. The forged Rembrandt painting, a harmless heirloom, hangs straight. The desk, once littered with papers, is orderly, but Poirot's instincts draw him back. The man, he was a keeper of secrets, he murmurs, his fingers brushing the mahogany surface. What else did he hide? His search yields a discovery. A hidden panel in the desk's underside, concealed by a clever spring. Inside lies a sealed envelope, its wax stamped with the Harwood crest. Poirot breaks the seal, revealing a document, a will, dated only a week before Sir Reginald's death. Unlike the public will naming Charles as heir, this one divides the estate differently. Half to Charles to manage the Harwood legacy, and half to Emily to secure her future. A note in Sir Reginald's hand accompanies it. "For Emily, my ward, to right my neglect. Keep this safe from prying eyes." Poirot's mustache twitches with satisfaction. Mon Dieu, a final act of conscience. The banker, he was not without redemption. The will's existence complicates the motives he has unraveled. Did Finch know of it, fearing it would expose his crimes? Did Charles suspect his forged letters a desperate bid to secure the full inheritance? Poirot tucks the will into his pocket, determined to ensure its execution. He gathers the household in the drawing room, the fire casting a warm glow over their weary faces. Evelyn sits by the window, her black dress a stark contrast to the dawn light. Charles leans against the mantel, his ambition tempered by guilt. Clara holds Emily's hand, her green eyes fierce with protectiveness. Victor, his cigarette unlit, stands apart, his debts a shadow. Agnes, her sternness softened, lingers by the door. Jap, curious, joins them, sensing Poirot's flair for the dramatic. "Mes amis," Poirot begins, his voice slow, deliberate, a storyteller weaving the final threads. "The murder of Sir Reginald Harwood is solved, Dr. Finch unmasked as his killer. But there is one more truth to reveal, one that shapes the future of this house." He holds up the envelope, its wax seal glinting. A hidden will, written by Sir Reginald to right a wrong. The room stirs. Charles steps forward, his voice sharp. "Another will? What does it say?" Evelyn's hands tremble, Clara's grip on Emily tightens, Victor's eyes narrow, and Agnes's face remains impassive. Poirot opens the envelope, reading aloud. "Half the estate to Charles Harwood to carry the family name. Half to Emily, my ward, to secure her future as amends for my neglect." Emily gasps, her small face lighting up. Clara's eyes glisten, her voice soft. "For Emily? Truly?" Poirot nods. "Oui, mademoiselle. Sir Reginald in his final days sought to protect her." Charles, stunned, runs a hand through his hair. I didn't know. I thought it was all mine." His tone carries a mix of relief and shame, his greed exposed as unnecessary. Evelyn speaks, her voice low. "He never told me. I thought he cared only for wealth." Victor, lighting his cigarette, mutters, "The old fox had a heart after all." Agnes nods, a rare smile breaking her stern facade. "He wasn't all bad, sir. He loved that girl in his way." Poirot hands the will to Jap, who scans it, whistling softly. "This'll shake up the courts, Poirot, but it's legal, signed and witnessed. Emily's set for life." He glances at Clara. "You'll look after her, I reckon." Clara nods, her resolve unshaken. "Always, Inspector." Poirot reflects on the case's intricacies, sharing his thoughts with Jap as the household disperses. "The syndicate, Inspector, they pressured Finch, but his fear of exposure drove the knife. The will, it adds a layer. Perhaps Sir Reginald's change of heart threatened Finch further, or others who coveted the full estate." Jap nods, his notebook open. "We'll dig into the syndicate, track this raven. Your ledger and telegram are gold for the yard." Poirot steps into the garden, the fog now a faint mist, the cobblestones gleaming. He recalls the clues, the animal blood staged to mimic murder, the cufflinks planted to frame Victor and Charles, the empty trapdoor, a clever ruse, the telegram decoded with his Belgian cipher knowledge pointing to the syndicate's shadow. Emily's man with no face, Finch in a cloak, sealed the doctor's fate. Yet the will, hidden until now, reveals Sir Reginald's humanity, a man flawed but not irredeemable. He visits Clara and Emily in the nursery, where Emily clutches her doll, her eyes brighter. "Monsieur Poirot," she says, "will I be safe now?" Poirot kneels, his voice gentle. "Oui, ma petite. You have Mademoiselle Clara, and now a future secured." Clara smiles, her gratitude unspoken but clear. "Thank you, monsieur, for everything." In the library, Charles outlines his plans to reform the Harwood business, his ambition redirected. "I'll undo his fraud, Poirot. It's what he'd want, maybe." Poirot nods, sensing a man seeking atonement. Evelyn, packing for her departure, confides her plans to start anew in Devon, free from Raven Street's shadows. Victor, in the garden, vows to settle his debts, his reckless days behind him. Agnes, in the kitchen, shares her intent to retire to the coast, her duty fulfilled. Poirot returns to the foyer, his hat and cane ready. Jap, preparing to leave, claps him on the shoulder. "You're a marvel, Poirot. This case, locked rooms, vanishing bankers, syndicates, it's one for the books." Poirot's mustache twitches. "The books, Inspector, they are written by the gray cells. And now, I must prepare for the next. Chapter 10. Farewell to Raven Street. The morning sun pierces the last remnants of fog on Raven Street, bathing number 17 in a golden light that feels almost cleansing. Hercule Poirot stands in the grand foyer of the Harwood townhouse, his silver pocket watch ticking softly in his gloved hand, its rhythm a steady anchor in the wake of the storm. The air is lighter now, free of the oppressive suspicion that once choked these halls. Dr. Leonard Finch, the physician who stabbed Sir Reginald in a desperate act of self-preservation, is in custody. The hidden will, securing young Emily's future, is in Inspector Japp's hands, destined for the courts. The syndicate's shadow looms, but for now, Raven Street is at peace. Poirot adjusts his impeccable hat, his mustache perfectly waxed as he prepares to depart. The case, the locked room, the staged bloodstain, the cryptic cufflinks, the threatening letters, the coded ledger, the decoded telegram, has been a triumph of his gray cells. Yet as he surveys the townhouse one last time, he feels the weight of its human cost. Lives altered, secrets exposed, and a fragile hope emerging from the ashes of deceit. Inspector Japp, his coat slung over his shoulder, joins Poirot in the foyer, his gruff demeanor softened by the case's resolution. "You've outdone yourself, Poirot," he says, his mustache twitching with a rare grin. "A vanishing banker, a locked room puzzle, and a syndicate to boot. The yard's buzzing, and that will of yours'll make headlines. Emily's set, and Charles might just turn the Harwood name around." He pauses, eyeing Poirot. "You're off, then? No rest for those gray cells, eh?" Poirot's lips curve into a faint smile, his eyes gleaming with quiet satisfaction. "The gray cells, Inspector, they rest only when the world is free of puzzles, and that it shall never be. But for now, Raven Street is restored to order, and Poirot, he takes his leave." He tucks his pocket watch away, its tick a reminder of time's relentless march. The household, though scattered, gathers one last time to bid Poirot farewell. Lady Evelyn Harwood, dressed in simple gray, stands by the staircase, her beauty softened by a newfound resolve. "Monsieur Poirot," she says, her voice steady, "you've given me a chance to start again. I leave for Devon tomorrow. A small cottage, a quiet life. Thank you." Poirot bows slightly, his voice gentle. "Madame, the fog lifts, and so must you. Find peace in the light." Charles Harwood, now the head of the Harwood estate, emerges from the library, his sharp features tempered by purpose. "I've started unraveling Reginald's deals, Poirot," he says, his voice firm. "The fraud stops with me. I'll make the name mean something honest." Poirot nods, noting the sincerity in his eyes. "Monsieur Charles, the legacy, it is yours to redeem. Do so with courage." Clara Beaumont, her auburn hair pinned neatly, stands with Emily in the parlor, their bond a beacon of hope. Emily clutches her doll, her eyes brighter now, free of the fear that once haunted her. "Mademoiselle Clara," Poirot says, his tone warm, "you have fought for this child, and the will, it ensures her future. You are her guardian in truth." Clara's green eyes shimmer with gratitude. "I couldn't have protected her without you, monsieur. Emily's my family now." Emily steps forward, her voice small but clear. "Thank you, Monsieur Poirot, for catching the bad man." Poirot kneels, his mustache twitching with a smile. "Ma petite, you were brave, and bravery, it always finds the light." Victor Grayson, leaning against the garden gate, lights a cigarette, his reckless charm replaced by a quiet determination. "Poirot," he says, exhaling a plume of smoke, "you cleared my name even if I didn't deserve it. I'm settling my debts, starting fresh, no more syndicates for me." Poirot nods, sensing a man ready to shed his past. "Monsieur Victor, the game, it is only lost if you do not play anew." Mrs. Agnes Poole in the kitchen polishes silver with a softer touch, her sternness eased by relief. "Madame Poole," Poirot says, entering, "your loyalty to this house, it was tested, but your heart, it held true." Agnes meets his gaze, a rare warmth in her eyes. "I hid that rag to protect them, sir, but you saw the truth. I'm retiring to Brighton, sea air, a small cottage. It's time." Poirot smiles. "The sea, madame, it washes away many burdens." Poirot steps into the study one final time, its order restored. The Persian rug, cleaned of its false blood stain, lies pristine. The forged Rembrandt, a harmless heirloom, hangs straight. The desk, once a chaos of papers, is now bare, its hidden panel empty since the discovery of the will. Poirot's fingers brush the mahogany, his mind replaying the case's intricacies. The animal blood, a theatrical deception. The cufflinks, planted to frame Victor and Charles. The empty trapdoor, a clever misdirection. The telegram, decoded with his Belgian cipher knowledge, revealing the syndicate's pressure. Emily's man with no face, unmasking Finch's cloaked disguise. Each clue, a thread in a tapestry woven by a desperate mind. He reflects on the human heart, its labyrinth of motives. Finch's fear, driven by blackmail and exposure. Evelyn's longing for freedom. Charles's greed, tempered by guilt. Clara's sacrifice for Emily. Victor's reckless debts. Agnes's fierce loyalty. "The truth," Poirot murmurs, "it is not only in the crime, but in the souls it touches." Jap, waiting in the foyer, hands Poirot a note. "For you from the Yard. They're impressed, as usual. That syndicate's next on our list thanks to your ledger and telegram." Poirot tucks the note away, his voice thoughtful. "The Raven? He flies still, Inspector, but his wings, they will be clipped in time." Poirot steps outside, the cobblestones gleaming under a clear sky, the fog a memory. The townhouse looms behind him, its Georgian facade no longer forbidding but serene, as if cleansed by truth. He boards a waiting hansom cab, his hat tilted just so, his cane resting beside him. "To the station, s'il vous plaît," he tells the driver, his mind already turning to the next mystery, a hint, perhaps, of a case abroad where the Orient Express might beckon. As the cab rattles away, Poirot looks back at number 17, its windows catching the sunlight. Evelyn, Charles, Clara, Emily, Victor, Agnes, each has a path forward shaped by the truth he uncovered. The will secures Emily's future, Charles's reform reshapes the Harwood legacy, and the syndicate's shadow, though looming, is no longer this house's burden. The fog lifts, Poirot whispers, and the world, it turns anew. He leaves a note for Jap, slipped into the inspector's pocket during their farewell. "Mon ami, your tenacity is a match for my gray cells. Until the next puzzle, Hercule Poirot." The cab rounds a corner, Raven Street fading into the bustle of London, its secrets resolved, its wounds healing.